there is one thing that we pray will come from this, it is that her beautiful face and tragic story will inspire others.
The case highlighted a frightening litany of violence against the teenager.
Shafilea body was found on a riverbank in Cumbria the following year.
The case has highlighted the challenges faced by children whose families operate an honour system.
I feel trapped, so stuck I don't know what to do. I got nowhere else to land, wrote 17-year-old Shafilea Ahmed in a secret poem. Her words were a haunting premonition of the fate that awaited her. On a cool September night in 2003, a quiet house in Warrington, England hid a dark, suffocating secret. In that silence, a terrified girl's muffled gasps for air would soon be answered by a chilling command in Urdu: "Just finish it here." No one hearing Shafilea's poetry could have imagined how tragically real her pleas would become. By the summer of 2003, Shafilea Ahmed's life seemed outwardly normal and full of promise. She was an A-level student who dreamed of becoming a lawyer, often scribbling poems and studying hard to achieve her goals. At Great Sankey High School and later Priestley College in Cheshire, Shafilea was known as a bright, high-spirited teen who laughed with friends in the hallways and earned a part-time job at a local call center for extra independence. She balanced two worlds. At home she was the dutiful eldest daughter of Pakistani-born parents, and outside she was a British teenager who loved Western fashion and pop music. Shafilea's days were filled with ordinary teenage routines: attending classes, working shifts at the call center till 9 p.m., and helping her younger siblings with homework in the evenings. Neighbors saw the Ahmed family as traditional but loving. Her father Iftikhar drove a taxi, her mother Farzana kept house, and together they were raising 5 children in a modest home on Liverpool Road. Nothing about the Ahmeds' polite smiles or Shafilea's shy kindness gave any warning of the storm brewing just beneath the surface. It was the calm before an unthinkable tragedy. On September 11, 2003, Shafilea's ordinary life abruptly turned into a mystery. That evening, after finishing her shift at the call center, Shafilea's mother picked her up around 9 p.m. to drive her home.
Her mother had gone to collect Shafilea from her part-time job in a call center. Shafilea was apparently wearing a short-sleeved t-shirt, was showing her arms.
By all accounts, it seemed like any other night. Shafilea likely gazed out the car window, thinking of her upcoming college classes or humming along to a favorite song on the radio. But she never showed up at school the next morning. In fact, Shafilea Ahmed vanished sometime that night, and no one called the police. Days passed in unsettling silence. Shafilea's seat in class remained empty, her phone went unanswered, and her parents had not reported her missing. It wasn't until a week later, when a concerned teacher overheard Shafilea's younger siblings whispering anxiously about their sister, that the alarm was finally raised. The school alerted authorities on September 18, 2003, forcing the first light onto a dark situation. A 17-year-old girl was gone, and the circumstances were as baffling as they were frightening. Shafilea had disappeared without taking most of her belongings. Even essentials like the medication she needed for a recent throat injury were left behind.
She had to have hospital treatment for this. She had severe burns in her throat, in her esophagus.
This was no teenage runaway story. A family and community suddenly faced a horrifying question. Where was Shafilea? And what terrible fate might have befallen the girl who only yesterday was chatting happily with friends? News of Shafilea's disappearance struck her family and friends with panic and heartbreak. Her parents, Iftikhar and Farzana, appeared bewildered and upset, telling police they had no idea what happened and couldn't understand why Shafilea would leave.
They strenuously deny any direct or indirect involvement in their daughter's untimely demise. If called upon to do so, they will not hesitate to defend their good and unblemished names in any court in this land.
Her younger siblings were reportedly in tears, clinging to hope that their beloved big sister would walk through the door again. As days turned to weeks, desperation hung in the air. Friends from school helped put up missing person posters and recounted how Shafilea was a cheerful, ambitious girl who wouldn't just vanish on her own. Her best friend later remembered Shafilea as a caring, high-spirited and brave young lady who had been hopeful that one day she would live the peaceful and happy life that she deserved.
Shafilea was a caring, high-spirited and brave young lady who, even in her toughest times, always strived to remain positive and hopeful that one day she too would be able to live the peaceful and happy life that she deserved.
You don't ever think anything that tragic and that horrific really could ever happen to anybody, let alone somebody you cared about.
Those who knew Shafilea couldn't accept the idea that she had simply run away. Something felt wrong. With unease growing in the community, police held a press conference in December 2003, hoping to spark leads. In a deeply moving moment, Coronation Street actress Shabna Gulati stepped forward to read Shafilea's poems aloud. Her voice wavered as she gave life to the words of a girl caught between two worlds, tradition and freedom. Households across Britain listened, hearts heavy, clinging to hope. But behind the cameras, that hope was fading fast. Detectives turned to Shafilea's writings and quietly spoke to her friends. And what they found hinted at a truth far darker than anyone was ready for. In February 2004, nearly 5 months after Shafilea vanished, the worst fears were confirmed. Heavy winter floods revealed a gruesome discovery on the banks of the River Kent in Cumbria: the badly decomposed remains of a young female body. Jewelry found with the corpse, a distinctive gold zigzag bracelet and blue topaz ring, was identified by Shafilea's parents as belonging to their daughter. DNA tests soon removed all doubt. The remains were Shafilea Ahmed. The bright teenager with big dreams had been murdered, her body dumped over 70 miles from home and hidden amid the reeds and mud. A peaceful Warrington community now shuddered with the realization that a killer had been among them. Detectives now faced a classic whodunit, and a disturbing pattern of clues began to point inward. To understand the tragedy that unfolded around Shafilea Ahmed, we must first look at where her family came from, and the values that shaped their world. Iftikhar Ahmed had emigrated from Pakistan to Britain as a boy and knew Western ways well. But in 1985 he entered a traditional arranged marriage with his cousin Farzana in rural Pakistan. When they settled in Warrington in the late 1980s, they brought with them the conservative values of their homeland. They expected their children, especially their daughters, to be obedient, modest, and uphold the family's reputation at all costs. Shafilea, born in 1986, was their eldest and a determined, ambitious girl who wanted to live a normal life in England. This put her on a collision course with her parents' strict rules. At home, Shafilea faced growing pressure to behave like a good Pakistani daughter. Her mother, Farzana, policed Shafilea's attire and behavior.
They arranged a family holiday to Pakistan to attend the wedding of a relative over there.
The only way that her parents could get her onto that plane is by giving her sleeping tablets. And we think that Iftikhar had been prescribed sleeping tablets for insomnia, and then what he then did was crush these up in some fruit juice and give these to Shafilea.
The intention was always that Shafilea would stay in Pakistan. There was never any intention of bringing her back.
There was talks of a marriage to one of her cousins.
Once even calling her teenage daughter a slut for daring to wear short sleeves and nail polish. Shafilea's taste in Western clothing, her friendships with local British girls, and any contact with boys all sparked fierce arguments with her parents. She was essentially a girl squeezed between two cultures, longing for the freedom her British peers enjoyed, while her parents demanded she submit to the old ways. For years, the Ahmeds stuck firmly to their version of events, that Shafilea had simply run away. But time has a way of loosening even the tightest held stories. Small cracks began to show. Detectives noticed inconsistencies in the family's timeline. Farzana and Iftikhar's recollections of the night Shafilea vanished were vague, curiously devoid of detail, as though delivered from memory rather than emotion. They insisted she had run off again, but her phone, money, and favorite clothes were left untouched. It didn't add up. Their demeanor in the weeks that followed raised quiet questions. While many parents of missing teens flood the media with desperate pleas, the Ahmeds kept a cautious distance, at times even blaming the police for intruding on their home. And then came whispers. At school, younger members of the Ahmed family were overheard saying things that hinted at something darker.
Rob Smith looks at how the disappearance of the Yorkshire-born teenager.
One teacher recalled a sibling murmuring, "Something bad happened at home, something no one's allowed to talk about." But when authorities followed up, the children went silent, their expressions clouded with fear. 7 years after Shafilea vanished, the silence shattered. On August 25, 2010, a strange break-in took place at the Ahmed home. Police later discovered it wasn't a robbery at all. It was staged by Shafilea's sister, Alicia. She was 22 now, but the weight of a long-buried secret had become too heavy to carry. During police questioning, Alicia broke down. Through tears and trembling breath, she confessed. She knew what happened to Shafilea. He had seen it all.
She indicated then that she was prepared to talk to them about what had happened to her sister Shafilea. She was the first member of the family to break ranks.
There was a real internal struggle going on for her. That ultimately, that struggle led to her telling the truth about what she had witnessed.
Her words cracked open the case investigators had been chasing for nearly a decade. In September 2010, both Iftikhar and Farzana Ahmed were arrested on suspicion of murder. But the full horror, the truth behind that September night in 2003, would only emerge in court. In May 2012, the courtroom fell silent as Alicia took the stand. She described a night filled with rage and fear. A simple family argument spiraled out of control, triggered by Shafilea wearing a t-shirt and white pants her mother called too Western. What followed was unthinkable. Alicia testified that both parents attacked Shafilea, shoving her onto the couch. Then came a plastic grocery bag. Together, her parents forced it into Shafilea's mouth, holding her down as she kicked, struggled, and gasped for air. "Bus Kadam Karo," her mother whispered. "Just finish it here." Within minutes, she was gone.
Farzana suddenly decided that she'd had enough, and she said words to the effect of, "Let's finish it here." She described how Shafilea was held down by her parents on a sofa. A plastic bag was stuffed into her mouth. They put their hands over her mouth and nose, so she was effectively being suffocated. And the children who were all present watched their parents kill their sister.
Alicia sobbed as she described the moment Shafilea's body went still, and the horror didn't stop there. She recalled her father coldly punching Shafilea's chest even after death. Her younger brother muttered she deserved it. Her mother calmly prepared to dispose of the body with bedsheets and tape. Alicia watched from upstairs as her father carried a heavy black-wrapped bundle to the car. The bundle was Shafilea. Farzana later returned home and, in a chilling move, went to sleep in her daughter's bed. The courtroom was stunned. The truth was far worse than anyone imagined. Shafilea wasn't taken by a stranger. She had been silenced by her own family. What they called honor was murder. In a desperate twist, Farzana turned on Iftikhar, claiming he acted alone in a sudden outburst.
The mother, accused of murdering her daughter because she brought shame on the family, told the court today she saw her husband punching and slapping the teenager. Farzana Ahmed, who denies murder, said she told police what her husband ordered her to say because she was frightened of him. Emma Murphy was in court.
But the jury saw through the lies. Both parents were found complicit. After 9 long years, justice had finally arrived for Shafilea. On August 3, 2012, a jury found Iftikhar and Farzana Ahmed guilty of the murder of Shafilea Ahmed.
They tried to control her, to force her into marriage, and to prevent her from expressing herself. When this failed, they murdered her a vile and disgraceful act against their own daughter, a murder, someone they should have been very proud of.
The verdict came after 3 months of wrenching testimony and 9 years of dogged investigation. As the foreman read the word guilty, a wave of emotion swept through the courtroom. Shafilea's younger siblings, Alicia, Mivish, and Junyad, broke down in tears, relief and sorrow mixing together. The Ahmeds themselves reacted with a telling mix of defiance and despair. At first, both mother and father stood impassive, faces stony. Then Farzana Ahmed began to weep as she was led from the dock in handcuffs, while Iftikhar exploded in anger, cursing at the police officers who had brought him down.
Shafilea Ahmed will not be the last murder victim of such a crime. We're going to see many more, sadly, Shafilea Ahmed trials here in the UK, because nobody wants to be whisked off to Pakistan or India or significantly harmed or even killed. And families will say and threaten murdering you if you don't adhere to an honour system.
In the aftermath of the trial, the tragic tale of Shafilea Ahmed left an indelible mark on all who heard it. For Shafilea's surviving siblings, there is the painful task of rebuilding life without their sister and with parents who will likely never come home. The Ahmed family, once seemingly ordinary, has been shattered, a daughter dead, a mother and father imprisoned, and the remaining children carrying the heavy legacy of what they witnessed. Alicia Ahmed, whose courage in speaking out finally brought justice, must live with both the trauma of that night and the strength it took to break the code of silence.
At the heart of this case is family honour, but there can be little honour left when the details of family life have been played out so publicly in a courtroom. As a result of the death of one daughter, another has condemned both her parents.
Thank you for listening to Shafilea's story. If this tragic case moved you, please consider giving this video a thumbs up and sharing your thoughts or prayers for Shafilea in the comments. And if you'd like to hear more true stories and help ensure victims' voices are heard, subscribe to our channel for more. Until next time, stay safe.